ARCI Durban provides an exclusive rehab treatment for alcoholism and drug addiction. The only rehab in South Africa that offers a medical detox treatment. We offer a superior, evidence-based and medically cutting-edge approach to the treatment of addiction. If you have been frustrated by repeated failures at rehab recovery or are unaware that there are proven anti-craving medications that can significantly improve treatment outcomes, give us a confidential call to learn more about ARCA Durban's rehab program. Contact ARCA Durban on 078-2722-911 24 hours or call our office number 031-261-5515 and our Johannesburg number on 0622-770-911. Office number 011-656-0705.
Good day and a warm welcome to African Essence. I'm your host, Sainashia Singh, and thank you for joining us. Today we are discussing the topic of breast cancer and the need for public awareness campaigns to determine early detection, treatment strategies, and a permanent and reliable cure. Some of our guests today share their inspirational journeys with us. Thousands of lives could be saved every year if people were more aware of the signs and symptoms of cancer and sought help earlier on. Treatment is more effective in the early stages of disease. Joining me now is breast cancer survivor Renee. Hi Renee, and a warm welcome to African Essence.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Now Renee, let's start at the beginning, okay?
Yes.
Could you tell us a bit more about when you learned that you had cancer? How old were you and what was the journey like in the beginning?
So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017. At the time I was 37 years old. A year prior to that I had had a full hysterectomy done because of a bleeding disorder for several years. They did, however, find a growth which was not cancerous. In February 2017, I had done a self-examination test, and lucky me, it was my hubby with me at the time that I had asked, can you please just confirm these lumps on my left breast? At the time, my second son had to go to the doctor for a medical checkup, and when he learned that, yes, I do have those lumps, as my hubby had told him, he said, Mom, I suggest it's better that you go to the doctor and confirm if these lumps are there. You know, and knowing the history of breast cancer in my family. I went to the local clinic where the doctor then had done a examination on the breast.
Yes.
And yes, there were lumps that were detected.
Sure.
So I was then referred to Helen Joseph Breast Foundation. When I got to the Breast Foundation, I had an ultrasound done and they checked, my breast. But the doctor, however, told me I need to call the other doctor in for a second opinion. At that point, I was a bit nervous thinking, is there something that they can see? Because I had no symptoms, just did a self-examination test. When the doctor came in, the second doctor, they then asked me to authorize a biopsy. So I then had to authorize a biopsy.
Okay.
Very, very painful procedure at that time.
Sorry about that.
In the left breast.
Yeah.
The results were then to come out in about a few weeks' time, which would be the 4th of May. On the 4th of May was then when it was confirmed that I do have stage 2 breast cancer, invasive lobular carcinoma in the left breast.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's how I had been diagnosed. At the moment, not knowing anything, not being educated on the cancer diagnosis, firstly. Having hubby with me there when I got the results, I was shocked. I had no words. I don't know, just like everything shut down on me. Like I couldn't even think, or just at that moment, it's just myself, you know, like, okay, it's positive, I have breast cancer. And, you know, I had to go home and break the news to the kids as well. But still, you know, I had to absorb it, and it just didn't set in at that moment, you know, okay, it's breast cancer. And, you know, I shut myself off everybody, be it family, friends, for the next few weeks, because I wanted to now absorb this whole thing and deal with it myself, you know. This is the first time of me having such a diagnosis. I'm not educated, firstly. We've had family members, you know, in the past where we cried and we advised them. But now I've stepped into the shoe myself. So, yes, it was very hard at the beginning. I didn't have a breakdown immediately. It was literally, I think, weeks after that I really like cried a lot, and, you know, just like thinking, okay, I have to accept this now, and, you know, moving forward as well. Yes, so that's how my diagnosis happened. And I was then, you know, with Carol Ben and other doctors that were there, and said, okay, you do need a left breast mastectomy. It was a nipple sparing mastectomy.
Okay.
And the one lymph node. So I had to have that done, but at the same time they advised me on reconstruction. So on the 10th of July at the Helen Joseph Breast Foundation,
Yes.
I had the nipple sparing mastectomy and lymph node removed. At that moment, I felt very, very alive. When I came out of the theater, I still remember, you know, the nurses saying, Renee, you're still hyperactive. And I was like, yes, you know, I feel so alive. I'm alive.
Yeah.
And I had drains on for the next 2 weeks. With the drains, okay, I was fine. No pain as such, or, you know, anything that I went through different, except having this operation done, the surgery. So that went off well on the 10th of July. However, on the 14th July, I was scheduled for reconstruction. So they were going to take a piece, I think, from the lower back, the left-hand side, and, you know, reconstruct the left breast. However, I got sick that morning in hospital, where I developed a heavy chest, started coughing at about 6 in the morning.
Okay.
So it was actually cancelled, the procedure. Until today, I haven't had the reconstruction done at all.
Oh, really?
Yes, I haven't had. So it's like,
Okay.
I also said to myself, I think it's natural, you know. Yes, it's a challenge in my life, but I think this is natural, and I'm just not going to have any further surgery done.
Yeah.
You know, so that happened, and thereafter I was scheduled for my chemo treatments, which was from August up until November, with Dr. P. Naiker. He's now back at Donald Gordon at his practices. At that time, he was at Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital. He advised me very, very well. I, you know, listened to his best advice regarding even being on morphine, sleeping tablets, dealing with this, you know, at the beginning, even my hair falling after 14 days. You know, each patient in cancer is different from the next,
Of
even though
course,
it's the same diagnosis.
100%.
So my hair did fall off after 14 days.
Yes.
Yeah, I looked very cool. Hey, I love the look of my hair, and I was just, you know, it was something new to me.
Yeah.
You know, every day was a challenge. Every day, chemo was my biggest challenge. Chemo, my first chemo that I sat down and was injected into my arm with the drip, and I felt this tingling feeling from head to toe. Pins and needles, but literally going throughout the body, like very, very strange feeling
Tingling sensation.
that I never experienced. I mean, even with my hysterectomy, everything was fine, you know. So I didn't have any symptoms, as you can see, you know, from the start. But each chemo, within, I think by midnight that night, I would start getting nausea. But it was really bad. It wasn't like, you know, when you would throw up all these years and just have vomiting or say, okay, get something for it. It was like really strange, because it started off with the nausea, and I'm a person, where it comes to even throwing up, I can't do that in front of my own family. I'm very private. I'd rather just control it and get to the loo, you know. And they even offered me, can we bring you at least a bucket, Mum? And even hubby asked. And I said, no, it's fine, I'll be there.
Yes,
So
yes.
literally I had my head hanging into this toilet because I just couldn't move. The nausea, the vomiting, just like, and it's nothing bad or like where it was food, it was just like a
Of course,
liquid.
yes.
The smell of gases surrounded me.
Okay, that's interesting.
So that was different for me.
Okay.
The smell of gases all the time, and it would continue for 24 hours. And after 24 hours of having vomited like this and feeling really weak, like I, had taken so much on me, and I just didn't know what to do. But after 5 to 7 days, my body wasn't yet stabilized. It was just getting back on its feet. But it felt very different. It was, just this chemo, the chemicals going through my body was something I've never experienced in my life.
Nay, that's such a heartfelt story, and you've mentioned so many things, and I just want to go back to something important that you mentioned, that you had a family history of cancer. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so my dad's mum had a breast cancer, and both breasts. And she
Okay.
also underwent treatments and chemo and radiation, but she had passed on. This was like years ago. I was like really young at the time. My dad passed away in an accident, which was 22 years ago on the 1st of July. In an accident, but however, his reports that came from a doctor weeks later said he had leukemia. A cousin of mine had bladder cancer.
Gosh, I'm sorry to hear about that.
So, family history.
Yeah.
My mum's sister, my aunt, had also cervical cancer.
Okay.
There was another aunt with breast cancer as well in the family as well. So yes, it was, apart from diabetes and the other chronic conditions, but cancer, yes, was present at the time. So like I said, if we go back, the self-examination till today, I can't remember how I landed doing the self-examination, but once it was in progress, I said to myself, yes, okay, my granny had it. It doesn't mean I have it, even though I had the biopsy done. I was still positive,
Yeah.
about the whole thing. But at the same time, I was not educated, knowing, yes, it's hereditary at the same time. So that's what happened, and, that led me down the road that I learned more and knowing about, okay, it's in the genes, it's in hereditary, and reoccurrence as well.
Yes, yes.
So I'm at a high risk as well. That's why I have a menopause injection where they induce it every 3 months.
Okay.
I'm on trimoxifene for 5 to 10 years as well. And, my multivitamins, iron and calcium as well. So, as doctor said, I am at high risk, but every 3 months I have to have the injection done to induce the menopause and have my checkups and blood tests as well. And obviously, just taking care of myself every
Yes,
day,
yes.
ensuring that it doesn't reoccur. Because, you don't want to go back there. It's, just going back to where we started is really
You've
difficult.
come so far
yes.
along. So you know what, you've mentioned something very important. You talked about the education that you knew surrounding cancer prior to your diagnosis, the fact that you had a family history, so you must have known some details about the disease, and that you could perform a self-breast exam. Just tell me a little bit about, before your diagnosis, what information did you understand about cancer?
Nothing at all. I'll be honest to you. I could
Okay.
advise family members.
Sure.
I had a family member when I had my hysterectomy done the year before, and she had bladder cancer. So I cried on the phone and I advised her, and she still said, don't cry, pray for me. There was no knowledge as such, or where the elders even had spoken, to the younger ones in the family, cousins, no education at all.
No, I hear you.
Up
Yeah.
until I was actually diagnosed with it.
Yes, yeah. So in your family, it's so touching to hear that your husband and your son were involved in this, and people don't always have that support structure
Yes.
in place. Can you tell us a bit about how you broke the news to your family and when this happened, and what was your emotional well-being like?
Okay, so at the time, my hubby was with me when we were at Helen Joseph Breast Foundation. That's when the doctor said no. And he still read the notes, while we waited for the doctor. And he's like, babe, you don't have cancer because it's saying positive. But again, no education, right? Knowledge. And I'm like, okay, But okay, so we went in, and as he sat on the side of me, and the doctor broke the news to me.
Yes.
I just held his hand, I squeezed it, I had a few tears in my eyes. And yes, I just sat there, okay, let me just hear what else the
Sorry
doctor has to
about that,
say.
yeah.
But I walked out of the clinic, and my mum had called, and she cried. And I asked her, but why are you crying? And she said, no, are you okay? And I'm like, yes, I'm okay. So when we got home after this trip to the hospital, there the kids were, and hubby, I think the men or women are much stronger than the men, we always say that, but he broke down in tears. And he told the kids, it's positive, mom has breast cancer. And I just looked at them, I sat in the kitchen on a chair. We had a pit bull at that time. Strange enough, the pit bull came to the side of me, and I saw a tear drop, and I was like, okay, so you know what's going on here, right? And I saw the kids crying, and I was like, okay. And I think I was blank. I go back to that moment every time thinking I was totally blank.
This is so touching. I'm actually have tears in my eyes right now. Renee, if you don't mind telling us a bit more about the journey up until your breast was removed and prior to the mastectomy.
So I was diagnosed again on the 4th of May, 2017. So I was given like literally a few weeks because the mastectomy was done on the 10th of July. So from the 4th of May, when I had the biopsy for the first time I encountered a biopsy in my life, it was very painful for those few weeks before the mastectomy. I felt as if there was something moving, around in the left breast. This was before the mastectomy. So it was painful and like a lump, like something just swimming around, moving around, but like I could feel it, but very, very painful. So that was before I had the mastectomy done.
What was Renee like before the mastectomy?
Okay, so I had the hysterectomy done the year before, and as I mentioned, several years, I had a very severe bleeding problem, and the doctor had called my family in, hubby and the 3 kids, that, it's between life and death now. I have to have a full hysterectomy done. My ovaries are still intact, and I think it took me a few days. Normally they say 6 weeks healing.
Okay.
But the same, Renee, up until today, I did not have the 6 weeks healing. After 3 days, I was making muffins and chicken curry in the kitchen.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I was like, I didn't know what was going to happen after the hysterectomy.
Yes.
But yes, I managed. No, I was strong at the time. So that's what happened. And, there was no signs and symptoms of cancer or knowing we all have these dominant cells in our body, the cancer cells, but nothing triggered me or that, raised concerns up until I did a self-examination test.
That's quite important that you did the self-examination test, which started this catalyst to everything. And, you obviously had some knowledge prior about cancer. You've talked about how you were before you found out, but I can just feel the warmth and the positive survivor energy that you have. So how would you say your mindset has changed post your surgery, and tell us a bit about the journey after your mastectomy?
Okay, there's a saying, they say cancer changes your life. So my dad's sister at the beginning said that to me. She just said it once off, she didn't repeat it again. And I thought to myself, you can't be serious though, but okay, cancer changes your life. So through my journey, after my journey, and I was to now see if I'm cancer-free and in remission after having chemo, having straight 31 days radiation as well.
That's quite a long time.
Yeah, surgery, then chemo, then radiation.
Yes.
Now it was time, to have a mammogram done. And yes, Dr. Naika had read the results, and now there was no more cancer. So I was actually now in remission.
Yes.
So I think that's basically when the journey began. because, you know, it was now going to take me weeks for this. My body felt very different. It was something I never experienced in my life. So from head to toe, I felt completely different. Having mastectomy, having chemo,
Yes.
having radiation, it really took a toll mentally and physically on me. And I had one breakdown. Hey?
Oh,
In
I'm
the
sorry to hear
entire-
about that. I can imagine, given this journey that you went through.
I think that's what made me stronger, because having one breakdown, because, you know, looking at patients today, it's almost every other day they're crying and they're breaking down,
Yes,
which is not
yes.
healthy. And I think
Yes.
for me, that's just the one breakdown made me stronger, and the challenges that came with this. So
Yes.
after the journey, and I was declared now in remission, I was, yes, happy, but I also then had learned about reoccurrence.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I learned about reoccurrence. So my journey has now started.
Been an informative one as
Yes, you know, and okay, Dr. Naika again gave me the best advice, being a new patient, being diagnosed first time with cancer.
well. Yes.
I think it was around 2018, the latter part of the year, I think after July, when I was declared in remission.
Yes.
So that's when my journey began, but still, I felt like there's positiveness in me. That there was more to this. There's more I need to learn. So I was very focused on learning more about this journey, educating myself, gaining knowledge, you know, from a radiotherapist, from oncologists, everybody that I meet, you know, in the cancer industry and being diagnosed.
Yes.
You're meeting new people all the time. So yes, I think it was weeks before we actually started a support group
Wow.
in radiation. That's what motivated me
Okay.
and made me stronger. Just mingling with other breast cancer survivors or being undergoing treatment with me.
Yes.
Yes.
So Renee, you've come such a long way, such a knowledgeable journey that you've shared with us. What are your current initiatives that you're doing, and tell us a bit more about your work in paving the way forward for other cancer survivors and people who've been diagnosed?
Okay, so I'm the founder and director of Warriors with a Purpose now. I ran it for 2 years after radiation until last year, July, I was registered now, you know, as an NPO,
Yes,
Warriors with a
yes.
Purpose. And it started off last year. I continued my work after radiation at the Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital.
Yes.
You know, continued giving hope and support out there. Last year, Feb, is when I shared my journey with the Buddies for Life magazine. And thereafter,
Okay.
to give more hope and support out there
Definitely,
to others
yes,
fighting the battle.
yes.
And in July last year, it was officially registered.
Wow,
So now I was,
congratulations.
thank you. I was so positive at that time, coming through the many challenges and wanting to reach out, you know, to others fighting the battle. So it started off last year, and I progressed to having drives and events, continued even with Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital. Last year was the first year I hosted the Cancer Awareness 5-kilometer color run. This was at the Walter Sisulu Botanical Gardens in Ramsey in Portview. So it was a huge success, and that didn't stop me. It motivated me more, and it came to this year. So from February this year, World Cancer Day,
Yes.
I didn't stop at it. Every month I've been having a drive, creating awareness, you know,
Yes.
having events. And I work every month on a monthly basis at the Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital. I'm now busy working with kids and adults.
Yes.
I want to gain more knowledge as well when it comes to kids, you know, fighting the battle, empowering the youth as
Yes,
well.
of course.
So Warriors with a Purpose is currently hosting the second Cancer Awareness Colour Run in October this year at the same venue.
Interesting.
It's going to be a yearly
Okay.
colour run, as well as the Pink Bra Project. So the Pink Bra Project initiative is for women that have a one breast mastectomy or both breasts
Yes, yes.
mastectomy. It must still make them feel amazing, fabulous and beautiful as they are. And even though they don't want to go for further reconstruction surgery, we have a soft cushion called a knocker. So
Okay.
you get a knocker in different sizes of your breast. And it can be worn on the inside of the bra. So it supports the breast, like having no breast there or both
A
breasts.
substitute.
Yes, it's a very soft cushion. You know, and you can have a breast cushion as well.
Yes, of
yes,
course.
Yes. So, Warriors of the Purpose is running the Pink Brow Initiative towards the adult oncology in support of breast cancer at the
Yes.
Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital. I just want to mention and elaborate a bit more on it. Mrs. South Africa finalist Tasnim Young Norris
Yes.
is one of them hosting the Pink Bra. Aladia Mohammed from Aladia's Kitchen, as well as Miss Preteen Universe Cyrillique Koopman, and owner and principal of the Montessori Prishani Miraj. We have now partnered with Busamed Private Hospital in Modderfontein. We will be raising bras there in support of breast cancer towards the Busamed Oncology. So this is what Warriors of the Purpose is doing now. So it's the Pink Bra. We're doing a second handover. We did one on Nelson Mandela Day at the
Yes,
Charlotte
of
Maxeke
course.
Academic Hospital. Yeah, and now the second one is going to be at the Colour Run this year. But we will continue. I want to extend the Pink Bra project in many other regions and countries and provinces. I want to create more hope and support towards breast cancer. So this is currently what I'm doing, and I have a passion
Yes.
to help others out there
can
fighting
see.
the battle, you
I
know.
can see your
And I
passion.
just want to go on. I feel like, you know, I want to do
Yes.
more and more. Yeah.
It's so wonderful to hear this amazing positive attitude that you have towards your journey and towards helping other people, and the support that you have from the community to pave it forward. And I just want to say, do you have any words of encouragement, advice to those people who are going through this journey now, finding out that they've been diagnosed with cancer?
Okay, so what I want to mention, when we do the drives and events, we also want to create, Warriors with the Purpose creates awareness, education and support, as well as fundraising.
Yes.
But at the same time, we want to raise awareness in communities, making families understand better of what to expect should their loved ones be diagnosed.
Of course.
Because you get survivors coming to
Sure.
us, no, because you've
very
been
important,
diagnosed, you're a
yeah.
survivor, you would know better, you know. So that's what we want to do, is create more awareness. Hope and support is very important where it comes to family support as well. So that's what we try to create out there. And I want to just tell all the people that are fighting the battle, be it young to old, you know, God gives his toughest soldiers the toughest battles to fight. No matter the challenges, cancer is very challenging. Every day is a challenge. Us as survivors, even though we've survived it and it can reoccur, we still fight in the battle till the very end. So to all the warriors out there, they should fight harder on the battlefield, no matter the challenges, and always look forward. No matter what has happened or what your body is experiencing, fight harder on the battlefield and never give up.
Absolutely profound, Renee. You have such a motivating story, and thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey. And I'm wishing you all the best for your initiatives, and African Essence wishes you all the best for your journey forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Did you know that 70% of all breast cancer is found through self-check? That is why we believe it's of vital importance that everyone learns and knows how to do a self-breast check. Breast cancer affects 1 in 28 women in South Africa. It is imperative that we as a community know more about breast health. Studies have shown that it is possible to reduce the number of women dying of breast cancer by 45% using very simple measures. These include understanding your risks of having breast cancer based on personal and family history, and by being screened regularly for breast cancer. Early detection is key to a better outcome with breast cancer. If a cancer is picked up very early, the risk of spread is low, and there is more likelihood it can be treated with simple measures such as surgery. It can involve a number of different types of examinations, which include breast self-examination, clinical examination by a doctor or breast specialist, mammogram, ultrasound, and magnetic resonance imaging. 95% of women survive breast cancer if detected early. That is why self-checking is so important, so you too can learn how to self-check, because it may save your life. Knowledge is power in the fight against breast cancer. So let's stand together, empower ourselves, and clear the stigma.
Our next guest is also a cancer survivor. Welcome, Ms. Anita Matthews, and thank you for sitting down and sharing your story with us.
Absolutely a pleasure.
So can we start at the beginning? When did you find out that you had been diagnosed with cancer? What was the stage that you had in the beginning?
Well, my first diagnosis was end of April in 2020.
Yes.
Just that there was cancer.
Yes.
It took about a week for them to specify which cancer,
Yes,
and then
yes.
it came as ovarian cancer.
Oh, okay.
At that stage, I didn't know the stage. It was
Yes.
only after they did my operation to remove the tumor and did a full hysterectomy at the same time that they actually said to me that I was stage 4.
Miss Anita, that must have been quite a shock to you in the beginning. How did learning that you have cancer change your life?
Shock, yes. Not completely unexpected, but the type of cancer was definitely unexpected because I have a family history very strong in my maternal line of breast cancer. So somewhere in the back of my mind, I kind of always had this inkling that I might have cancer in my life. Never expected to be diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So it was shocking, but for some reason I can remember sitting waiting for them to draw the blood to do the cancer markers, and I shed a few tears, and then for some reason I just did a quick prayer and I said, I'm handing it over, whatever has to be, has to be. And I'm not a person that was a terribly strong believer beforehand, but I got such a sense of calm, and that stayed with me till today.
Anita, could you take us through the process of treatment and your emotions, and how did you cope?
I was very scared in the beginning because obviously you don't know what to expect. Everybody has a vague sense of what cancer is and how it can affect your life, but you don't know how it's going to impact you specifically. So I was very lucky because although we were in COVID lockdown 5 at the time, within 3 weeks from originally being diagnosed with cancer, a week later getting the ovarian cancer diagnosis, 2 weeks later I had my operation. So when the doctors kind of said to me, no, we're going to operate you so quickly, during that time I already suspected that it was quite serious and not just a stage 1. Although, like I said, I only got the diagnosis of stage 4 quite a bit later. I had my operation, total hysterectomy, and then of course I went home for my 6 weeks recovery. When I went back to my doctor, because I was with the state hospitals and got my treatment through the state hospitals, they said to me, everything is fine with the incision and everything, but now you have to go to oncology. I went to oncology. They gave me a date to start my chemo, and it went from there. So I was told that I had to go onto carboplatin, which is very specific also for ovarian cancer, and that I needed to have at least 6 treatments. And with that, they put in Taxol, which is also another cancer drug. Unfortunately, at the time when I started my treatment, the hospital was changing suppliers, so they didn't always have stock of carboplatin, which was interesting. So the first time I had my chemo, they actually gave me 2 doses of Taxol, and I didn't get any carboplatin. I was very fortunate. I have a cousin who's a pharmacist, and when I gave my family feedback, he said, well, he can get hold of it for me. Next day I went back because I was too late the first day. I went back on the Friday for my chemo, and the doctor said, yes, I'm allowed to bring it in, and through my cousin I managed to source my own carboplatin, and of the 6 treatments I got, I provided 4 of my own dosages. I was very, very lucky in that I had very few side effects during chemo. I did not get neuropathy, but my hair fell out within the first 7 days, which was not too bad. It was worse when I realized that I didn't have any nose hairs. That's the weirdest thing. And in any case, so then I went 3 weeks. Every 3 weeks I went for my chemo, and as it progressed, you got slightly worse side effects. It was more difficult to get veins to put in the drips, stuff like that. Every time you go, your blood has to be tested, because if your white and blood red cell count isn't precisely correct, then you can't get your chemo. Thankfully, that only happened to me at the very end with my very last chemo. And I had gotten quite used to not having hair and having my head completely bald. I wore little caps, and that was it. So by December, I was finished with my chemo. The biggest problem for me wasn't so much how I was handling it, but how my niece, who I foster, was actually handling it.
So, ma'am, you've taken us through this informative, journey that you've had. Could you take us through how did your family handle this, and was there any support in place?
Well, at home it's just me and my 14-year-old niece. At the time she was 12. She's in foster care with me. And so the two of us basically went through it by ourselves. I had a lot of support via WhatsApp and the phone from extended family members and friends. And strangely enough, some people were very supportive and some people almost withdrew because they didn't know how to handle me.
Yes.
So that was quite interesting. And for the first while, I didn't actually tell my niece I had chemo. I was telling her I was just getting treatment because obviously she had seen my extended belly before my operation and stuff like that. And I was doing chemo for about 2 months. And then when my hair started really going, not just falling out slightly, I had to sit her down and talk to her. And she was quite anxious about it. Even still today, she keeps on checking on me on a daily basis, saying to me, "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" Just to make sure that she hasn't missed anything coming back and I'm not hiding it from her.
Yeah, as you mentioned, your family must be more worried about this than you, and knowing that you're going through this.
No, absolutely, because the thing is, my parents are both deceased. So, like I said, my brother lives far, my aunt lives far, my uncle is overseas. So I don't have a lot of immediate support other than friends. And they were great. They were really very supportive. They sorted me out some days with food unexpectedly. I got care packages unexpectedly, which was really nice to feel cared for.
I'm so glad to hear that you did have support, because that's important.
Yes.
Could you talk us through a bit more about what you would advise people who have not yet received a diagnosis of cancer, and what should they check out for?
I think it's very important that you do your annual checkups. We've talked a lot about breast cancer in the media, so people have a general idea about breast cancer, not so much other cancers. But I think the slightest problem that you have, rather go and speak to your doctor, so that they know the symptoms. They can do extended testing. If the first lot shows nothing, you can insist that they go further. From an ovarian perspective specifically, there are no precursor tests. So even if you go for your pap smear and your cervical exam, it's not going to show if you've got ovarian cancer. So it's very important that you follow up on your gynecological appointments. And it's also very important that they do an internal exam at that stage, because otherwise it might not show up early enough. Because ovarian cancer is called the silent killer, specifically because there aren't a lot of symptoms until you normally in the final stages.
But ma'am, you've mentioned some very insightful things there. Not everyone does have support. So what message would you have for families who do have someone who has been diagnosed with cancer?
That's a two-part question. Let me answer it like this. If you have a family member who is diagnosed with cancer, no matter what cancer it is, okay, the most important thing you can do is to tell the person you're there. If they need something, don't expect them to still be able to, for instance, do all the household chores, because physically it's not always possible. The other thing is, remember, there is support for family members as well. It's very important. You can go to CANSA. They have got support groups for family. They're very good at phoning you back, giving you information, being on call if you need them. And for me, that was very important. The other thing is also there are a lot of support groups that you can join. For instance, Google whatever cancer your family member has, look at Facebook groups, find ones that work for you. If you are alone and you do not have family support, I would very strongly recommend you need some kind of support. You need to speak to people who are going through it. Everybody goes through it differently. You might get exactly the same treatment for exactly the same cancer in exactly the same stage as you, but your body would react differently. So, but it's always good to discuss it with people, to say, today I'm feeling like this. The other thing is, once again, look for support on Facebook. Look for support on the internet, or if you're going for your cancer treatment, speak to the people that are there for their chemo, because that's how I got onto some of my WhatsApp support groups, is by speaking to other people and them saying, well, we'll add you to this group. And that is a tremendous help, because if you're not feeling good the day, then other people are there to pick you up.
100% agree with that. You know, it's so important to have that communication with someone who's been through the journey, even though different people may present differently with their cancers.
Absolutely. And the main thing is, the biggest thing I've found is you must try and be positive. I'm not the world's most positive person in general, but I have found that you can always find something good or something better than yesterday, even if it takes a bit of a mind shift.
Yes.
But I mean, even if it's as silly as my nausea isn't as bad today as it was yesterday, it's still looking at it positively rather than going, oh no, I have nausea again today. And that makes a huge difference.
100% agree with that. Well, thank you so much, Miss Anita, for sharing your story with us and for sharing that positive mindset of, you know, coming out a survivor, and that support is so important.
Absolutely. That's the one message I'd like to give to people is hang in there. It is beatable, but it's all about attitude.
Thank you so much. Although October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we need to create awareness all year round and show our support and compassion for those who are affected. There are shave-a-thons, cancer hospices, and support groups for those who want to get involved.
Breast cancer journeys require emotional and informative support to women and families affected by breast cancer at the time of diagnosis, during treatment, and beyond. For more information, please contact Warriors with a Purpose on 064 684 7915 or 084 770 4733.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, The African Essence Television Show. And from us, it's good night and God bless.
Sell your old, damaged, or unwanted gold jewelry. Gold Bar, raising the bar in the gold industry. Better prices, safe, fast, and professional service. Contact us at 082-881-8654, Conubia at goldbar.co.za.